Hey everyone, today I'm going over a removable IR compliant water-based paint that you can put on hard surfaces that I believe in Germany they call Schlimmkleider. Schlimmkleider, whatever they call it. But essentially all it is a magnesium carbonate, which is like hand chalk you use for powerlifting, working out, climbing, whatever. But you know, hand chalk, the powdered chalk. You'll need acrylic paint, and I'll get into that here in a second, and then water, and that's it. So here's some examples. So right here I've done my rifle and the scope, and essentially this paint is removable. So all it takes to remove it is water, and you can 100% remove all the paint, and it's very quick to paint, and you can change paint schemes or paint colors very easily. You can paint stuff very quickly. So this AR-15 right here has been painted for a little bit, but this shotgun was also painted very similar to this, and I left it on there for a week, and then I removed it with just water and some brushes, some cloth and stuff like that. But essentially just water. This shotgun is back to like it was never painted before. The only little bit you can see on there is maybe in some of these real small cracks, there's just a little bit of that paint left over. The paint is very liquidy, very runny, so it has a tendency to get into places if you're not careful with it. So, but it's fully removable with water. And one other quick thing is that this paint does very good under night vision. So essentially, some of like your AR-15s, the aluminum is almost glows under night vision. It's kind of weird. Like this Holosun illuminator, the aluminum body kind of glows under night vision. It's weird. But essentially, you can use this to mask that. Spray paint does a great job, but it's permanent. This also does a great job. It just absorbs the light, and it doesn't, I guess, yeah, that it absorbs the light. It doesn't reflect the light out, whatever. But it keeps the gun very dark at night, so it doesn't just kind of light up. Even when you hit it with like an illuminator, it doesn't light up. So it's great for infrared use. Essentially, you can put it on anything hard. And I'll give complete credit to the guy I got it from on YouTube called Rippercon. He's a German military guy, and this is what they do over there. And I haven't seen anybody else do this. So I kind of wanted to spread the news about this. So I've tried a lot of different paints and stuff, but essentially what I recommend is, in my part of the country, Walmart has very cheap acrylic paint. So go to Walmart and you can get these for like 50 cents. So ridiculously cheap in the craft section. So I've got a khaki, I've got a real brown, and I've got a English ivy green, which is a very dark green. And then I went to Hobby Lobby and got some other colors. This is probably the best. They actually call this olive green. Premium watercolor. Watercolor, acrylic, same thing. It just needs to be water based. Yellow is also a good thing to have. What Rippercon showed me is that, or showed everybody really, is you can take black and yellow. You wouldn't think so, but you can take black and yellow, mix them together, and you get like a dull green, like a ranger green. It's really, I didn't think that would be the case, but really, black and yellow gets you like a ranger green. But you definitely need black, because black helps you darken the colors, because the magnesium carbonate chalk is going to lighten up the colors a lot. So essentially, you're going to make this slurry, and I would give you ratios, but there's no sense. You just kind of mix it until it looks good. But before you put on the paint, you've got to test the paint out. You've got to paint something or paint on a like I use like a paper plate. Paint a little bit on a paper plate, let it dry, because if there's too much of the chalk in there, it'll dry really, really light. But essentially, you need to let it dry to see what it looks like, because sometimes it looks great when it's a liquid, but dries really light. So, but what's great is you can get like a jar, like a canning jar, and you can make your paint, and then you can save it, and then whenever you need to add another accessory to your rifle or something, you can paint it. Now, what he did is he did solid color, so he just did a green and painted the whole rifle green. What I did is I took one step further and I tried to make a pattern with my rifle. So essentially, I made several different colors of paint. This is kind of what I did first. It was just a splotchy, mostly green, light green, dark green, medium green splotchiness on this rifle. After I cleaned it off, I went back and essentially I did like a stripe. So I took brown and black and I made a dark brown, and then I took some green and black and made some of this green on here. And then essentially I left some of it exposed so I could get black, because there's not really a good way. There's no real sense in making a black paint when your rifle's already black. But essentially, is I kind of painted on with a paintbrush a brown stripe. I left a black stripe, then I did a green stripe, and then I just did that. As you can see, green, brown, left it black, green, brown, left it black, and I just did that. One thing I will say is you need to keep where you hold the gun as clear as possible, because it will rub off when it gets wet, and just keep the handles clear. It just save you a little bit of a. And if you do paint the handle a little bit, it's fine. I just wouldn't put a bunch of layers on there, because this stuff does build up fairly thick as you go, and it will get into the workings of the gun. So like it will get in the magazine and the bolt stop. But all you have to do is, if you get a little bit too much there, you can put some water on there and work it back and forth, and it'll be fine. It's not like a sticky tacky paint. It's just a water-based paint that dries thick. So just like anything else, you kind of want to cover up stuff you don't want the paint to touch, like all these little numbers and stuff. Now, here's the deal. If you get something painted over that you don't want painted over, you can remove it with water. It's super easy. Let me do a little bit of a test batch of paint to show you how it's done, and then I will remove some of this paint that's been sitting on here for probably a couple weeks, and I'll kind of show you how that works. So I'll remove it off of something. But so I've got some of my old paint here, but I would take some of this paint right here, this English Ivy, and like I said, portions, it's not a big deal. I get a little bit of green paint. Now, I could not find the chalk. You can buy it on Amazon, but I could not find the chalk at my local Walmart. So I bought this liquid version of the chalk. And essentially it's just the chalk suspended in alcohol. And when you, like when you're working out, you pour it on your hands and you rub it, it dries out so that you have chalk in your hands. It's not as dusty. But it works just fine. I didn't know if it would work, so I kind of tried it, but yeah, it works. Whether you get it in liquid form or you get it in powder form, you're good. So put a little bit of chalk in there. Now, you almost always need black darken these colors because that chalk really lightens it up. I'm about out of black, but, and did I mention water? You need water. There's some water. This is all water based, so if you put too much water in there, you can just put more paint, more chalk. So as you can see, that's a pretty good green paint right there. Now I won't know how this will turn out until you let it dry, and you can just put a little bit right there. Get a hairdryer, dry it out, and it'll dry out in just a few minutes. And I don't really want to paint my shotgun again, but I'll do a little bit just to kind of show you. It goes on fairly thin, and you can kind of see through it. The first layer will, and that may be kind of a look you're looking for, because you see this has a lot of, I don't know if you can see this has a lot of like streaks in it, and if you're looking to get that streakiness look, because it kind of looks like grass, that's fine. But if you want it to be more of a solid color, you know, let it dry and then come back with a second coat, and it will definitely be more of a solid color. I actually kind of like the thinness of it. Here's another thing, is that the thinner it is, the easier it's going to come off. So, and there's some layers like right here that's got probably 3 or 4 layers of paint on there, and it's going to take a little bit more to come off. But a spot like this is very thin, and I will show you. So it does come off with water, but it's not a super easy thing to do. So I mean, if you're out in the field and it starts to rain, you will have some come off of it, especially where you rub up against it. But you know, you can customize your paint. You can change it whenever you want to. If you're going to be in a darker environment, you can, you know, do darker colors. If you're going to be in a desert environment, you can do desert colors. You can do super green, super brown, whatever. But essentially, so the first few swipes, it doesn't do much. But you see what's happening right here. And you can use this on metal, on plastic. The only thing I wouldn't say to use this on, I have not had luck with using it on textiles like nylon or cotton or anything like that, which Rippercon said you could. He painted like a pouch with it and said you could remove it. It may be that I got the liquid form of the chalk, this stuff, but I could not get that to work. But so you see, you know, just you kind of go crazy with it. You know, you can make patterns. It's not like, it's a very runny paint, so you're not going to make these like patterns like you could with like spray paint. Like you put a leaf on here and spray it and you got a leaf pattern. That's not really how it works. But it does an amazing job of going from a black gun, which stands out like crazy. You just go into the wood line and set a black rifle up and go back 50 yards and you can see the rifle. No problem. Lean this on a tree and then walk back 50 yards, you're not going to see it. It helps tremendously to break up the pattern of the rifle. Now, here's a little extra for you. Something I do to help with my camouflage ability, depending on how much you need, is I've got this shock cord, you know, just bungee cord that you can put, see if you can see that? You can wrap it all around your stuff. And essentially you can stuff natural vegetation, which a little bit of natural vegetation will do wonders in breaking up the silhouette of the gun. Here I've got some shock cord, and I just got some dry grass. And by the way, this thing used to stand out like a sore thumb, being black and all. But you paint it a little bit with brown and green, and it just kind of blends in. And then you come back with a little bit of dry grass. You know, you stuff it in here. You know, just a little bit goes a long way. and I know you may think I'm crazy, but just like that right there will do wonders when you're in a tree line, to really mask this silhouette of the gun. Now you can do all kinds of stuff. You can do magazines. What I would say is, I would, if I did put on something that like went up into the gun, I would keep it. I would do a thin layer, or after I painted it, I would come by and wipe it down so you had a really thin layer where it actually goes up into the gun. I've done IR illuminators, red dots, and like you don't even have to mask off where the glass goes. I got some on the glass, and you know what I did? I just wet the glass and wiped it off. It's actually really easy when you first put it on there. The first 5 or 10 minutes, it's really easy to clean it up. As it sits on there for a day, it'll get harder to come off. But with 2 weeks, I showed you can still take this off fairly easily. So I mean, I guess the one downside is that the upside and downside is it will come off if you're just operating for 24 hours and like pouring down rain. A lot of this is going to come off, but that's kind of the good thing about it, is that you can take off the paint fairly easily. This is starting to dry. You can kind of see this is how it is when it's wet, and this right here is how it is when it's starting to dry. So it dries a whole lot lighter than you think. Don't be afraid to use a lot of paint and just a little bit of the chalk. I've experimented and all this kind of stuff, and you can really, it's not hard to get this stuff off. I think probably the easiest way to get this stuff off is if you could just, if you need to get this off, I would just wet the whole rifle down and keep it wet for like 15 minutes, and then you could pressure wash the rifle, and it would just probably come off super easy. But besides that, just get it wet and scrub it with a brush, or you could just get a washcloth, and you'll get 90% off of it in 10 minutes or so. And then if you want it to be like new again, like look like this, you're gonna have to put a little bit of elbow grease in to get every little nook and cranny, all these little bitty things. You just put water on it, scrub it with a brush, let it sit, it'll soften up, and it'll eventually come out. So, but I think this is a great thing to do if you're trying to camouflage any kind of hard equipment, whether it be a spotting scope, whether it be a rifle or something like that. I think it's a great way to camouflage hard stuff. And if I was going to go to be in some kind of arid environment, I could super easily, I wouldn't even have to take this paint off. I could just go over it with a really tan paint, make a really light paint with the khaki. Or if I was going to be in a super jungle green environment, I would do this really green probably. So you can, it's nice because when fall comes around and everything dies and everything's real brown and gray, you can repaint your rifle. And then when spring comes around and it's really bright and green, you can repaint your rifle. Or if you're going, if it snows and you're going to be in an environment with it being snowy, just make some white paint and make some strips of white throughout here. I think that would probably do pretty good. I've still got a lot of testing to see how well this stuff does. There goes the shotgun. But I'm very pleased with it. So really the best thing about this, I think, is that if it's loaned equipment or borrowed equipment, or if it's Uncle Sam's equipment, or you want to protect your resale value, you can still experiment with colors and experiment with camouflage. But then when it's time to sell the rifle, or you decide, hey, this thing isn't reliable, so I'm gonna get rid of it and get something else, or I want to go to a different platform, or you don't want the AR anymore, you want to go to AKs or whatever, you can clean it up, make it look as good as new, and sell it, and you'll be good. So anyway, it was a pleasure making this video. So if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Thanks.